January the 4th, 1983, in Saluda, North Carolina, and I'm planning to go and tape an interview with Mary Dell Johnson, who has just passed her 90th birthday last fall and has lived in Saluda almost every summer of her life.
Woman.
Oh, but it's just you've been around for a while. You know, I got a lot from the younger people, but they remembered what somebody had told
Yes,
them.
that's right.
And the actually, you know, Saluda, they didn't know what happened in Saluda before the Revolutionary War, for instance,
No.
because the people who were out here didn't read and write, and most of them got shooed out by the Cherokees.
Come join us, darling. All right.
Well, now you came originally from, where'd your father come
From what?
from? Where did your father come from? I mean, where were you from originally?
Richmond, Virginia.
Really?
Yes,
Oh.
and his ancestry, he used to brag a little that the first Church of England clergyman that set foot on Jamestown Island was his ancestor, and his name was Zacharias Brooke. My father was Brooke White.
Now,
And his middle name was Gwathmey. There was one
oh,
family,
yes.
one family of Gwathmeys that came over, and anybody by that name that spells it that way is obliged to be kin to him.
Right. I have run into Gwathmeys in Virginia, I do
That's
believe.
it. That's it.
I spent every summer of the world when I was little with my cousin Ellen Stewart down in Abingdon, Virginia.
Oh, yes.
I went to Hollins College in Virginia.
I wanted to, but they sent me to St. Mary's.
Oh. Well, I didn't get to finish at Hollins. The World War II came along while I was there, and they, Dad was in Georgia, and so he wanted me to go to the University of Georgia where I could live right at home. He said that there'd be troop trains and all sorts of things, and he didn't want me going back and forth to college, so I didn't get to finish there.
And Mother came from Wilmington, North Carolina. And,
Good Tidewater people.
her father had the first shipyard south of Norfolk. He built ships.
Oh,
And when he went to Florida, he was sent there by the government to deepen the harbor of the St. Johns River. And he liked it so well, he stayed down there. So
and that's how you happened
That's how we happen to be Floridians.
Right. Well, you don't have the kind of Miami, Florida accent, though. You have a southern accent. Well, tell me, when did you start coming to Saluda?
When I was 2 years old in 1895.
Well, then you know.
And been coming every summer since.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
That's what Eunice told me, you know, that
Yeah.
you should tell me all this.
I'll tell you what got me concerned about this history, that nobody was writing about anything very long ago.
That's right.
And this business of, now I'm fond of the Lelands, I'm
Yes.
very fond of all of them, but
They're not
that,
old
that
Saluda.
home that is called the Leland Hotel, I mean, started out
The
according
Charlton
to people
Leland.
that way, was Dr. Gallette's home, and I lived in the home there with him for about 10 years, every summer. So I knew the Gallettes very well, and I think they're very fine people, and they ought to be in the history of Saluda.
Oh, I have them in it, but no, I didn't realize that was their house.
Oh, yes, he built it.
Well, now, I didn't have that. You see, I just got what people told me
He
about
built
things.
that, and he built the one up the road they call the Oaks, and for one of his daughters. And the younger daughter, I think it was the younger one, didn't find Saluda very happy and gay for her, so she went to New York City to live. And after some years, after her sister lived in the house her father built for her, she moved up there too, so that's the way that was.
Well, now, Miss Gillette, the one that did the library, that was his sister, was it?
She was a nun. I don't know where she took her vows, but she wore a nun's habit, and I'm sure she felt every inch a nun.
I think I remember Mrs. Hendry telling me that her sister had known Miss Gillette well, and that is what had started her. Do you remember?
And what?
That's why she became a nun, because
yes,
of Miss
knew her
Gillette.
Too, but
yes.
I didn't know that she had been influenced in any way.
I think I'm very bad about that, but Mrs. Hendry told me about someone, and that would have been the person.
But Miss Gillette, well, she was called Miss Gillette and Miss Julia, and she was a godsend to this community. She was very much loved. She visited the sick and did what she could for people who were poor. And she was responsible for that library being built and named for her. And I don't know why they couldn't keep it up.
I don't either. I think it is just, they decided that people weren't using it because of the school and because of the bookmobile. But there's a difference.
Oh, of course.
Completely.
It's Julia F. Gillette Memorial Library, and it was a shame to dismantle it.
And didn't she teach sort of arts and crafts and things to
teach what?
Teach arts and crafts to the
yes,
sewing and beside teaching school.
She was not very proficient in anything of that kind, but she was very fond of the native people, and she treated herself like she was one of them and won their love and respect. You know, so many people talk down to them.
That is right, and it makes me furious. Absolutely.
And think of the ones now that have college educations.
And the number of paces, for instance.
Yes.
And even back then, though, as I understand, one of the boys had a Rhodes Scholarship.
Is that so?
Who finished at the seminary over here. It wasn't one of the
paces. You remember
paces.
the seminary where they tell you about that?
Yes, right. That's in the history of Saluda. You have one of those histories, haven't you?
No.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
I may have one somewhere at home. I don't know.
Well, yes, the seminary was evidently a good school, a really good school, and people came from all around to it.
Well, I know it from various other places. Mrs. Thompson, who died in the past couple of years, what's her first name, honey?
Ms. Thompson that died.
Well, on Pine Street, right on the corner, because you go to the seminary.
Oh,
Lillian.
yes.
Lillian Thompson. She went to seminary when she was growing up.
Well, so many of them did. I've talked to quite a few of the Saluda people.
Do you know anything about the Anderson family?
Now give me a clue. I say give me a clue about them.
Well, one of the Thompson girls, one of Lillian's daughters, married Anderson, and he lost his mind. Absolutely crazy. And she had to divorce him. They had one daughter, but he went around terrorizing everybody.
No, and, that's a good story. I mean, that's a story
she moved away from here and married someone else. And even to this day, when she comes back here, she has to be careful answering the telephone. So the man is still alive.
He is.
His sister is here in Saluda. She used to have a beauty parlor. They called her Teeny.
Oh, yes, I know Teeny.
I don't know her, but he was her brother.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
You have to be careful what you say and all kinds of things.
My goodness. Well,
but he was in an institution in the state, and they let him out. You know, they let so many people out a little too soon. But
now, was he from Saluda originally?
Yes.
Yes, I know Teeny was married to an Air Force man, she told me once when she was doing my hair.
I never met him, but I know she seemed to be better educated than the rest of them.
Well, I find so many stories. The deeper you get into it, you realize that there's underneath there's all sorts of things going on.
That's the reason I don't want to be responsible for anything.
for telling anything. Yes, that's the way everybody felt. Mrs. Kirk told me some wild stories about some of the goings on around here.
Who's that?
Mrs. Kirk.
Oh,
Gertrude Kirk,
yeah,
yes. She's been here for a while. She had been here.
They claim that Gertrude was part Indian. Did you ever hear that?
Well, I think it's just because she looks part Indian, don't you?
I don't know. She's a peculiar woman.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice in some ways, and then others no.
I guess we all are.
I know it, I am.
Well, tell me when you first came. Now, I know you were a baby, but as a teenager, what were some of the things? Where were some of the places you went and the things you did?
The Melrose Inn, of course. Lillian
Harriet, right,
yeah,
was her aunts that had that.
And then there was Miss Campbell's boarding house up the hill here, in front of Dolly Hall's, way up the hill.
Yeah.
And she was, I think, from Camden, the family. And then there's a boarding house where the nursing home is.
That was Pace's.
Well, it was for a while, and then somebody else ran it. We used to go over there for dinners sometime to keep them, because help's hard to keep up here. They're bored.
Mm-hmm.
And then, let's see, several private boarding houses.
Well, what about some of the other summer people that came up, the young crowd? What did they do?
Well, being a minister's daughter, I didn't get to mix with
well,
them
an
very
Episcopal
much.
minister's daughter, isn't that?
I didn't get to mix very much. And my brother was quite a mixer and went to Sewanee, and some of his buddies would come here, and some of the Cebu's family from Columbia.
Uh-huh.
And the Hamer family.
Yes, I think I've heard about them. My husband's sister was 10 years older or so, and the crowd that came up, now they would be pushing 70 now.
Uh-huh.
And they must have had a good time.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Now, as I remember hearing about the drugstore, and how in back of the drugstore there was they called it the bird cage, didn't they?
My recollection of that was that they showed movies back there and had benches back of the drugstore, run by Dr. Little.
That's right, Little's drugstore.
Well, I was going to, in some notes I made for you, there was at one time 2 banks, drugstore, moving picture, a tea room, and a bowling alley in Saluda.
Yes, I remember hearing about that. And did you know that the man, Peter, whatever his name was, that had the movie theater, he was, now wait a minute, he was married to, Bertha Bishop's sister, I think, or anyhow, he was married into that family somehow, and he took off in the middle of the night, left family and theater and everything else, and that's why it had to close down.
I didn't know that.
I heard all sorts, and I heard it from Bertha Bishop, so I think
brought
she
a
knows.
young man up here in 1938 from Jacksonville who had a nervous breakdown in New York City, but Jacksonville was his home. And I brought him up here to recuperate. And he sat out on the hill all summer long in a deck chair and never left it. But he began coming up here and taking moving pictures. He's the first one that ever did that around here. And we had apple festivals and whatnot, and he'd take the movies of them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some of those reels around here yet.
Do you have them? Or?
I think maybe some might be in the attic, but I'm not
that
sure.
would be wonderful for the city. I think that all these things should be
Well, I
kept.
noticed that there was one frame of the Apple Festival.
Was that the year that Elizabeth Cooper was
in the
queen?
bank, yes.
Mhm. She's
Uh-huh.
Elizabeth Neighbors
Yeah.
now. And then Doris Carey Elwes Pace now.
Yes.
She was the other year. There were just 2 years, I think, they
I
had.
didn't realize that Doris was.
She was the first year, and then
I see.
Elizabeth was the second.
And let's see, Fairchild's son, I believe, was the
That's
prince.
right. He was the prince, and there are pictures
Yes.
of him in the history. Pictures of the.
You know the history of the Sonner family.
I remember. That's one of the things that Gertrude told me, that suicide and murder and so on. That,
Yes.
now, which boy was that?
The eldest, Junior.
Junior son. Did you know about that? It was out at Lover's Lane.
What?
It happened out at Lover's Lane.
It happened on one of those roads leading down to Green River Cove.
Gertrude Kirk told me that was what they called Lover's Lane then, or Lover's Lead down there.
About that,
And that he came, that they found the boy. I think there was another murder and suicide that same year, or suicide pact.
I don't think they ever found out who the murderer was. But at any rate, for a while, this young man thought they were blaming him, and he disappeared from sight. Now, I don't know where he was, whether they put him in jail or whether he got away or what.
Now, who was this?
The oldest son of all.
Oh, he shot himself, and he died.
Well, I know he finally died, but I didn't even know he shot himself.
Yes, he shot himself at the same time that he shot the girl.
One of his sisters visited me, and both of the girls were alcoholics. And one of them married an army man, I think, and lived in Jacksonville for a while, and lost her mind, and they had to put her on an institution where she died. The youngest one is Fairchild, the prince. He was always peculiar, and he went to California to live, and then finally came back here. And I understand he died too. That's all I know about him.
Well, now, they had the grocery store, didn't they?
Yes.
They had Sonner's grocery.
Now, that was the Sonner store. Originally.
That's where Ward's is now, isn't it? Isn't Ward's there now? Lola Thompson Ward?
No.
Oh, no, that isn't?
Yes. The last store, the first store, was across the railroad track.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There's a great big old whitewashed building with benches along the side so you could watch the train come up the grade.
That was a big thing in Saluda, I understand.
And the man who was Mr. Sonner's partner at that time, I noticed the name Tanner is mentioned in one of the histories in Saluda. Said Tanner and Sonner. Well, I never heard that connection, but I knew the man who was for a while a partner. His name was Morris, and his name was De Lafayette Morris.
Oh, what a lovely name.
And the local, everybody's called him Dilly. Dilly Morris.
Dilly Morris.
But he was the most likable, delightful person to men, women, and children. He was lovely.
Was he from, that doesn't sound like a mountain name, was he from?
No.
He was,
Did you hear about the Revolutionary fire that was a man built by the name of Morris?
Oh, yes, that was, and he was the grandson or something
of the
signer of the Declaration.
Financed the Revolutionary War.
Right, yes.
And I'm not sure, but I think this Dilly was a kinsman too.
Oh, I see.
But I don't know why they moved that house, and it's gone. But I remember going there.
I have never been down there. I mean, it's gone, of course.
How many years have you been coming?
Well, I married Hank in 1943, and we began coming after, about 4 or 5 years. So we've been coming since about 47 or 48.
Oh, yes.
And then we bought this house. We bought what's her name, Harris, Florence Harris's house.
Oh, I knew Florence and loved her.
Well, we can live there in the winter now. You see, the old house we couldn't possibly live in.
No.
We built an extra little room on and completely winterized it and came up here for a couple of winters just over weekends and found that we loved Saluda in the winter, and so we bought the house that we could live
But you're going to be here all winter.
Oh, yes.
Your residence is here.
That's right, yes.
Well, we are trying to do the same thing, but I want to sell my holdings in Jacksonville, so I won't be tied down there at all.
I think it's a wonderful place. Now, I wish I had thought about saying something to you about it, but on Christmas Eve night, when they had service at the church, we had everybody from the church over for eggnog, and this is the third Christmas we've done that now. And
shame on me, I wasn't there.
Well, I know about you more than from Elizabeth Griner. She told me what a good bridge player you were, and how you played bridge.
It's been a long time.
Now, who was that foursome that played?
Who
were the bridge foursome? Elizabeth and you and...
Oh, we had two tables. Gladys Hendry and Elizabeth. And then we had Mary Ellen Leland. And I don't know, quite a bunch of, Florence, the one you bought the house from.
Florence Harris.
Yes, Florence Harris. And Agnes Meyer.
Oh, Dr. Meyer, General Meyer's wife.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, it was so much fun.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Great people, just wonderful.
That was most of the gang.
Well, now, I still haven't I keep trying to find out what people did in Saluda. I mean, you played bridge later on. Now, were you in the book club?
No.
Or the women's club, or any of those things?
No, you see, not being here all the year round. I keep trying to find out where people went and what people did, and who the crowd was, when. Do you know? Harold, will you fix this light so it'll turn on? Sure. I want to get those notes, and then I made them so I wouldn't forget.
Right, yes. Where did they live?
Behind John Jones up the hill. Above, toward the top of Tryon. Toward the top of Piney. Yeah.
She never asked me to do anything legal.
You have.
And now what? Do you remember any of the crowd? For instance, John Jones. He was about your age, isn't he? Or is John Jones a little younger than you are, or is he about your age?
Yeah, I think so. I'm 80. I'm 90.
Well, I think he's getting long now.
In his 80s somewhere.
You're well preserved.
But I was wondering if what you all did. You know
Oh well.
I'll get it.
Oh, I can get it. I'm not using it now because I think I've got this thing going again.
I don't really remember too much about what we did.
Tennis?
Yes, this on...
Where was the tennis
court? On Louisiana Avenue, this place the minister from New Orleans built.
That's Wooten?
He called it Shanty Shane. And he had a big
Shanty
tennis court there. And ministers and everybody else would come out there and play Sunday afternoons. After you've been to church, you can do anything.
That's right. Absolutely. Now that was Brewster. Didn't you say his name was Brewster? Did you say the man's name was Brewster?
And he married a Miss Rogers, and she was kin to Dr. Gillette. She was named Buncombe Rogers. And they had a son. What was his name? Rogers. They called him Rogers Brewster. And one of his children lives in Jacksonville, Florida, but I don't know which which one it is.
Well, you all would you go up and play tennis and have parties at the tennis court, or just
Yeah, oh yes.
people would bring food, or?
Yeah, that was fun. But it was they were mostly older people, and I was at that time. I was
The kids
child.
didn't play then.
Now there is a name. There was a family from I don't know why they were from Louisiana, but they lived out that way. What was the name?
Well, what did they do?
Well, anyhow, one of them had a daughter named Helen, and Helen, wait a minute, what was her name? Helen Pigeon. That's a funny name.
Pigeon, yes, Pidgeon.
She was from Memphis, I think, and her family were owners of the Coca-Cola business there. Mm-hmm. And she married one of these Robinsons from New Orleans.
Oh.
And she bought a place up here on Stackhouse Mountain, and she's Helen Ford.
Oh, she's now Helen Ford, uh-huh.
Yes, and she's expected up here almost any time now.
That is I met her, now who was it? It was, Doris Pace brought her in one day to the Calico Cottage.
Oh, is that so?
Yes, and she said that she only came a very short time, and she wanted me to meet her, and she brought her into lunch one day.
I think she usually comes in August, but I saw that lady that is a caretaker for her place, and she told me she spent a lot of money up there, and she's going to spend more time here now than she ever has.
Oh, I'm glad, because it seems a shame, that beautiful view that she's just never up there.
And she's expected up here most any time.
Okay.
Now, the person that takes care of the place for her is Marvin Gilbert's wife, Emmy Gilbert.
Okay.
You registered for Spartanburg. Not too far away.
Ah,
We lived in Spartanburg,
let me
then
see.
my mother, she had
There
a
used to be a
restaurant.
lady from Charleston that would come up here.
Oh, yeah.
If I could just remember her name, she taught dancing through the summer.
We'd been there about a year.
No, it wouldn't have been Miss Manny, though. She wouldn't be teaching dancing.
No, further back than that.
And where did you dance? Where did you learn to dance? I mean, where did she teach dancing?
Well, that building, it used to be this little library.
Yeah, down below.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I knew that they had square dances.
Oh, her
down there.
name was Miss Sally Carew.
Sally Carew. That's one that I don't have at all. So I'm glad I haven't even heard of her.
Sally Carew.
I want to be sure. I don't know whether this is working or not. I think it is, but what I did was you see, I ran the back of the thing with the first part of your tape, so that I started in the middle of this tape. So now I'm starting at the beginning again. I don't know how to work that.
Let's see.
Taught dancing.
Now, some of the old timers were, of course, you heard of Miss Rosa Box.
Oh yes,
And
they ran a boarding house, didn't they? Didn't they run a boarding house?
yes,
What was that?
up above the Episcopal Church up there.
Rosa Box's boarding house.
And then there was Miss Hattie Howe. She was, I believe, Bishop's daughter from Charleston.
I didn't know that.
And Miss Annie Waring.
Oh yes, right. I wonder about this Ann Waring that's on the Greenville radio.
Oh, is that so?
I think maybe she's a
relative.
A relative.
Yeah. And then there was a lady named Miss Gussie Werner.
Oh.
Who lived with her mother where the Baptist church now stands.
She said, I'm never ever gonna come back to the
And what
military.
did, was that a boarding house there, or was that was their own home? That wasn't
Yeah,
a boarding
yeah.
house. Miss
And
Gussie
did you
Warner.
know that one time Saluda had 2 banks and 2 drugstores and a moving picture and a bowling alley all at one time?
It was a big thing.
Well, everybody
When was that now? When you were a little girl? Or what?
Oh, I imagine I was,
30s?
oh, every bit of it.
Was that in the 30s? Because I think my husband went to, the first talking movie that he ever went to was in that moving picture.
Well, did you read that thing out of, no, I don't mean this. I had a clipping, Cassidy was on that table, a clipping about the motion picture 60 years ago. You didn't see it?
Here it is.
Oh, there it is.
I cut it out of paper the other day. I thought, yeah.
May 10th, the Princess Theater.
Was that here?
Yeah.
In Saluda, for heaven's sake.
Let's see. The Princess Theater in Saluda opened during the past month. The theater is owned and operated by Dr. Little and features 400 permanent seats and seating for 100 more by folding chairs. The silent features are accompanied by a photoplay sound combination and 10-piece orchestra whose tone of orchestra is sweet to hear.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
You know, you are amazing to me. I couldn't anymore read that at my age without my glasses
Well,
on.
I've just had 2 implants, so I've got new eyes.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Let's see, W.S. Green was easily elected mayor of
I don't know
Toronto.
what that is. That's nothing.
They're not about Saluda.
But that top
That's
is.
marvelous.
And you're talking
Can
about
you imagine doing something like that?
Gene
Doing it right
Brandon
now,
and
Not facing
the movies he made. He used to take them around and show them at the different schools. This says Gene Brandon will show movies again on Monday night at the school auditorium, presenting The Fire Trap with Norman Foster. You see, he'd get tapes of these others, but he made his own of local things. There was Apple Festival here, and let's see, the Sauna Boy. What was his name?
Fairchild.
Fairchild? Fairchild?
Fairchild, that's right. Fairchild Sauna was the king of the festival, and
And we got those pictures.
Oh, we have those in the
bank
history.
down there. There's some.
Right. Uh-huh.
And the Cooper girl from the post office's daughter was the queen, and they had pictures. Anyhow, this says Gene was showing these pictures. He will also show Mickey Mouse cartoon.
That's the best part of it, wasn't it? That's like the icing on the cake.
The first show will begin at 7:30 and the second at 9:15. And then this is a notice about Fred All at Jenny's Apples
Oh, yes.
and everything. So, but the children had never seen any movies at all in some of these schools where he went. And to take the pictures of local things, and the helper coming pushing up the grades, and everything.
When that was back in, this was in 1940. August 1940. Now I want to get his name, so I'll be sure and get it right. Gene Brandon.
Yeah.
All right.
Mary Devil, would you like me to go to the attic and get that roll of film?
I'm very sorry, my dear, don't behave.
Would you like for me to go in the attic and get that roll of film?
The film.
Would you like for me to go in the attic and get that roll of film? Motion picture film?
Yeah, you know where to put your hands on.
I may.
Okay.
They might be able to find somebody that
Or we
could show it.
we could go through and maybe pick out a picture here and there and do it as a still.
Yeah.
You know, so that we could use it in.
I could take it over to Barbara's and get some prints.
Sure.
That would be wonderful if we could do that.
Yeah.
I'll go
Just
look at
marvelous. We're hoping to get this thing done in not too long a time and sell it at Coon Dog Day.
Oh, that soon?
We hope so,
Oh,
yes,
great.
and do it, sell it for the depot so that they can do the depot over and do something with it. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but
Well, there's been so much contention.
oh, terrible.
Well,
Right.
It seems to me that stands in the way of everything,
It does.
doesn't it?
I can't hear a thing. I mean,
I said, so much contention about what's to be done and what's not.
Well, I guess that's true any place. No more in Saluda than anywhere else.
sometimes it's not because everybody will let somebody else do it.
That's
Oh,
it.
that's true too.
We found that out at the Centennial. You know, and when we got the history done, and I'm sure we did some things that were wrong. I mean, that they weren't,
well,
because
sure.
we asked people, and people didn't remember
And
exactly.
a lot of times people, one person's recollection will contradict another.
But
You know, we did that in such a hurry, I'm surprised that we got anything done.
we did it.
Within about 6 weeks, baby, we
We had
got
a
that thing together.
tremendous job. And but people said,
Besides that-
why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do
Well,
that?
you've never done anything, and nobody has. That somebody won't think.
And they didn't do it themselves. You know, why didn't they do it if they wanted it done right? But I got a lot from people.
Oh,
Tell me.
let's see. Up back at Dr. Gillett's house, it was never Smith's Hills, because Dr. Smith
Wasn't here
wasn't
then.
here then. But Miss Amy Hayne, Hayne, and her sister, Miss Nettie, lived up there. And
Well, now they were Dr.
Dr. Smith married Nettie first, and she died, and then he married Amy, his sister.
That's right.
And she brought up the children.
Right, and they all just loved her.
Oh, yes, everybody
She's
loved
a
her.
wonderful person. to
And
do that.
Miss Hattie Staten lived somewhere around over the hill. And once long ago, there was a Mrs. West that lived here.
And now what did she do?
She lived on that hill, and she had a son named Charles. And she finally married let's see, what was his name? I don't know. She was a widow, but she married a man and had a dairy out here at the edge of town.
Oh,
And Charlie West moved down to Tryon and lived down there. Let's see.
There's a big roll of it here.
oh, wonderful.
I hope they haven't been ruined.
I hope it's some good. Now, nobody knows I've got
I'll call
that.
Mr. Barber tomorrow,
So
and then I'll go over Friday and I'll take that.
just
Would you mind if you
keep
permit me to
it
pay
to
you?
yourself where you got it from. That'd be all right.
All right, good.
Because
We'll
I
do
like
that.
it returned to me.
Two at a time.
Right, and you don't
I
want
carried
it
a
to...
10 copy in last Friday of J.B.
Uh-huh.
School.
Back up across the falls and back up. That was the year I had typhoid fever. And
Everybody seemed to have typhoid up here. My husband's grandmother died of typhoid fever in
Really?
Hendersonville.
oh my,
Up here
no,
for the
I
summer.
didn't have it here. I had it in Jacksonville, and I was recovering here.
Oh. And you walked from the top of Sugarloaf to where?
Sugarloaf.
Oh, goodness.
It was a lodge up there, and we stayed in that, and then we went down to the Chimney Rock Mountain. It's against the low side of Sugarloaf, and back up the Indian Trail across some beautiful falls that you see from down the valley, and back to the hotel and had a big dinner, and then got up and got in a Surrey and rode back home.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Oh, it was
Sounds
fun.
great. You know, I think we miss an awful lot these days.
Oh, I don't know. You make it up for it in some ways.
Well, I was brought up in the horse cavalry and did a lot of riding, and we had wonderful rides. And
Did I mention that this Helen Robinson was divorced from Mr. Robinson and married Mr. Ford from New York, and that she was expected up here anytime. Now, as Helen Robinson, there's a notice in that Tryon Bulletin that she entertained 30 people at her place up on Stackhouse Hill. Yeah, she did a lot of entertaining.
she used.
Yeah.
I think Charlene wanted. I think she wanted to ask you something.
What about the Stack House? Why is it named Stack House? I was wondering if it was Stack or Stack House or...
The name was Stackhouse, and they were from Georgia, some place in
they
Georgia.
call this Johnson House.
And there was another family up there
Stack.
by the name of Averill. And Dr. Gillette used to take young men and teach them pharmacy, because there's no pharmacist schools in those days.
Oh, I see.
And he had his own drugstore and taught these young men how to put up prescriptions.
And was Averill, was he one of them?
Ted Averill was one of them.
That's what that man told me, and he said he was the soda jerk. That Johnson, W.E. Johnson.
And that he was a soda jerk at Galette's?
Yeah, I got a letter from him.
But
Tell me about Judd.
What?
Judd.
Judd's Hill.
Judd's Peak.
It was always Judd's Peak as long as I've known it, until Ms. Wilkes bought it.
But there wasn't he was connected with the Episcopal Church?
I don't know about that,
I've read something somewhere, but I can't remember.
but the Fauntleroys, one was a judge and the other a doctor. You know about them, don't you? Uh-huh.
We have them in the history, but tell me about them.
Well,
I don't know how much that I have all that I should have. I hear they were real characters.
well, I don't know which one it was, but one of them was so afraid he'd lose his young wife that he used to lock her up when he left home.
Oh,
That
no.
was Doc,
Was-
and he married Pace. Now, I found in the courthouse in Hendersonville where her father deeded property to them up there.
Who did he marry?
He married Craig Pace's sister.
Fred?
Her name, Craig, you know, Kenneth at the orchard,
Yeah.
their father's sister.
Oh,
And
yeah.
her name was Gertie.
Was-
and-
what?
Gertie,
Oh, yeah.
And Dr. Fauntleroy married?
yeah, and the marriage license in Hendersonville Courthouse, the property transfers up there. Her father gave her so many acres of land. Her father was named Finch Pace. And so that was Kim Pace's grandfather.
Well, you, of course, in that little history that Mr. Herbert Pace wrote, he mentions Aunt Haley Staten.
Oh, yes.
And, you know, what's interested me so much in a lot of these people is their local expressions.
Wonderful.
You know, that family of Swiss people that settled here, the Bambergers.
Yes.
Well, they tell the tale that one of them, the youngest one, Edith, used to take the cows out to graze, and that a man would say to her, "Well, young lady, how are you and how are your cows?" She said, "We're both of us fine, thank you." and we mind both of us minding our own business.
Now, I talked to Edith Pace. I have her taped.
You have?
I haven't.
Oh, boy,
it is
I bet-
great. I'll have to play it for
Oh,
you
I'd love
sometime.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah, Harry, you ought to hear that.
Yes, I have. But you know, her grandsons are lawyers and doctors, and
Sure.
they came to the. This is the wonderful thing about the people here in Saluda. They have great brains. They just hadn't been educated, and the ones who have made a real go.
I know it. When you take the Bolick family,
I don't know the Bowles.
they lived next door to the Oaks up there.
On up beyond the
Yeah,
old.
that-
He was a railroad man, wasn't he?
Yes. He used to operate the Helper. But
Oh, it was his son that had the went to Oxford, the Rhodes Scholarship.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And he's the one that gave those big, huge pictures that they got in City Hall.
Yes. And, of course, you know all about the Patterson family.
Not a lot. No,
Well, I don't think anybody knows very much, but wasn't one of them an actor in the movies?
Oh yes, that's the what's his name, the Patterson, the
Oh, Pat Hingle?
Pat Hingle.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of.
Yes, Charlene wrote to him and got the picture and the story and all from
Good.
him,
From his aunt.
from his aunt.
And
she-
Dr. Fauntleroy's wife or some, I believe, ran away and left him with a Baptist preacher.
Ran away with a Baptist preacher. Oh, for heaven's sake! Did you know that, Charlene?
I knew that she left him. But,
And I believe the
Hub
same.
Middleton's wife run away with a Baptist preacher.
John, Mr. John,
Hub.
Hug's wife. I didn't
Yes,
know
Herbert's
that.
wife.
Herbie.
Herbie
How is
Middleton's.
I haven't
Yes.
seen him this year, and I look for him.
Well, I told JB Sunday, I said, I don't believe Herb got there like he did.
Oh,
He
people,
said, well, he comes almost every day.
people from
But I just haven't
Ohio
been
built
been
this
down there.
house
Oh.
about 100 years ago.
Oh, I better write that down. So this is older than our old house. Our old house was built in 1887, the one on Shand Hill.
Well, I think it is every bit of 100 years old.
If
I
you go
don't know
down-
the
you
year
go
it
down
was
to the
built,
courthouse
I'm
and
sure.
find out, and her daddy-
Built by
time
people
there was
from
a
where
new-
now?
Every time there was a new member of the family, they would add a
It's not
room
hard
to
to
it,
do
a
if
couple
you've
of
ever been there.
rooms on the side.
What was in there?
They're great
Uh,
to meet you down
Well, it was a lady named Mrs. Perry, and it was her daughter and the daughter's husband that did the building, Mrs. John Bushnell, and it was no kin to any of the Bushnells around here. They came from Ohio,
John Bush.
and he was a civil engineer and helped build the Florida East Coast Railroad, and they named a little city down the state for him, Bushnell, Florida.
Built the Florida
there. It used to be
Railroad.
a Bushville, North Carolina. Now
Built
that's
what railroad? I'm sorry.
Florida East Coast.
Florida. All
The
right.
waters of Fontana covers what was
Flagler
my
Railroad.
grandmother.
Flagler.
The Flagler Railroad, Mr. Flagler built, the financed it and built all the,
And they built this house then.
yeah.
Has this house been changed much since you've
Oh,
been?
they were what I call clay and whitewash walls. I
Oh.
tore them out.
I know just what you
I had
mean.
a
She said
friend
the
once
White Pine
visiting me, a foreign gentleman, and he told me he hated to mention it, but I had certainly been cheated, and they had put all these nuts.
Oh, no, it's naughty, kind, terrible. Oh, that's great.
This was all the rage, though, then. It was very modern, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Family.
In the church on the hill, you probably noticed a little window, Mary Buell White.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my father's children by his first wife.
Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, Mary Buell White windows. B-U-E-L-L?
B-U-E-L, and that was the Reverend Mr. Buell, in whose home he lived in Asheville, studied for the ministry, Reverend Mr. Buell.
Oh, I
And
see. And she was your father's sister?
She was my father's child,
Father's child by his
By his
first
first
wife.
wife.
Uh-huh.
by his
Your
first wife.
half-sister, wasn't it?
And his
Uh-huh.
family developed tuberculosis, and he lost them.
Oh. And how old was she when she died, you remember? Or I would be on the window.
Yeah, I like to sit by it, and I think but for the B-U-E-L-L, it could be me with the Mary D-E-L-L.
That's right. Yes, well, I hope it wouldn't
How long did the
be.
child live, Mary Dell? How long did the young
How
lady live?
old was she when she died? Was she a
It's
child?
It's on the window.
It's on the window,
Yeah,
sure it
I
would
don't
be.
know.
Uh-huh.
I
We
really
expect
don't.
you to know everything.
There was a family. I'm telling you this, but don't put it in your book.
Yeah.
That's how we like.
Okay, I'll just turn this off now. So. Oh, who was named Florida?
Huh?
Girl named Florida.
Who's named Florida?
Some girl you know, a young girl here, was named Florida.
I don't remember.
Well, it'll come to you.
I believe maybe that was the one. Florida Marydell White Pace, I think she called herself. Yeah, I guess that was it.
That
They
was
call
it.
her Florida? Was that her
They
first?
called her Florida.
Yeah, I think so. Doris Pace ought to have some recollection she could give you. Her family lived here for so long.
She did.
Yes.
I should take, and I want to go down and take Eunice and Boo too.
Oh, yes.
They're always so busy, but if I take it down to the store, maybe.
Have you a record of a man named Morris who was in business with Mr. Sonner?
I remember the name Sonner and Morris, but I don't know about him.
He was a descendant of the William Morris that helped to finance the Revolutionary War.
Oh, he is
Dilly.
And
Dilly Morris.
I know it, but
Dilly.
I know it, honey. No, you know what his name was?
Dilly.
No, that was his nickname.
Yeah. His niece told me.
What was it?
Tootsie Arledge at Tryon told me what it was.
I know what his name was.
What was it?
De Lafayette. And
De
the local
Lafayette.
people called him Dilly.
Oh, all
I'll
right.
change my name. I think I'll change it to Dilly or either Lafayette.
Now, I don't know whether that was this man's father or what family he had, but they're the ones that had the Revolutionary fire that they kept going out here.
Same
Yeah,
family, I
yeah.
imagine. But he was in business with
Mr. Q.C. Sonner.
Uh-huh.
And
I think they had
Mrs.
the old
Sonner
store
was
across
a
the railroad.
very aristocratic lady from Charleston, or Pringle,
Pringle, what was her name?
yes.
Ms. Pringle.
And there was a very sad story about her oldest son. He had his girlfriend out visiting parked on a pretty view or some of the kind. Somebody shot and killed her, and he was accused of doing it and disappeared for a long time. Then what happened, do you know?
I heard that he had shot himself at
Yeah,
the
I
same
think
time.
so. Well, he's buried out here at Mountain Page. And his two sisters, Eunice and Bessie visited me in Jacksonville at my home. So I was very fond of Bessie. Everybody liked them, but I don't know about Eunice so much, but Bessie drank too much, and then so let's leave that out.
Well, the Sonner boy, as I understood that they took him over to Hendersonville, and before he died, he never really came to, but he said Jimmy did it.
He had what?
He said Jimmy did it, and there were 3 Jimmys in that crowd who were good friends.
Uh-huh.
And they
didn't-
never knew who it was.
I knew that unless it found out, I wondered what happened to it.
Well, that's what they said.
Yeah.
But he died in Hendersonville, and everybody thought that he'd gone off. And they dug him up, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And found that he was there in the grave, but a lot of people thought that he wasn't. I shouldn't have this on tape, but that's what Gertrude Kirk told me, and I have it on tape from her.
Oh, yeah, yes, well.
She was here when it happened.
Yes.
Mary Dell, why don't you, I always found interesting that little tale about how, was it Annie Heatherly's?
Annie Heatherly.
What about her?
Well, didn't she have a child who passed away?
Yes.
And didn't you write her a letter and quoted something and you'd seen in a graveyard in England, and that's what she finally
yes.
put on the
What was
tombstone?
it that she put on?
Peace. She is not dead. She doth not sleep. She hath awakened from the dream of life. I think that's the most
Oh,
beautiful thing ever.
lovely.
I saw that on a tombstone in England, and it appealed to me so much. And I told Annie Heatherly about it, and it appealed to her, and she had it put on her little daughter's grave.
She hath awakened. I want to be sure I
Ernest
get this.
Heatherly's daughter.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
She's trying to write down the inscription, Mary.
She hath awakened
From the dream of life.
from the dream of life.
I'd like
Wonderful. That
I'd
is
like that
lovely.
put on mine.
I would too. I think it is, it's, you know, people are so worried about death now.
I know.
And why, if you're a Christian, why worry about death?
No, it.
It's going on. That's right.
Yeah.
You're going on to something much better.
Yes. We were promised so much. Why in the world doubt that promise?
Absolutely. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it really doesn't when you come
No.
to think about it.
Did you get it all down?
I got it down.
Living is a whole
I
lot
think I have it here too.
sadder than dying.
I agree with
Sometimes.
you. It can be.
I've got a small collection of stuff that I've cut out about Saluda, but I don't think any of it is old enough to interest you. But I'll go through it, and if I think you would like to have it, I'll see that you get it.
Oh, that sounds
It may
wonderful.
not be anything.
Charlene's the one that's collecting things. I'm writing them, and Charlene's hanging on to them because she's good at that. I lose things and all. She has everything taken care of forever and ever and
I'll go
ever.
through there.
Not everything.
Well, everything that anybody's given her, she has taken care of, and I am so.
Where do you have room for 'em?
She's
I
gonna
got a
build
little satchel here and a little satchel there. That's
You
my
have to build
filing
on your
system.
house, right?
Charlene, how does Margaret's husband pronounce his name? Is it Burrell or do they call it Burrell?
Some one way and some another. It's really Burrell.
It is.
But now he's got a brother that's a Burrell. He's one that moved to Florida.
Oh, I love that. And that was. Now he's from here originally, isn't he? That's what I thought.
You really are remarkable. You really are. I'm going to refresh your drinks.
I don't care for anymore.
What about a half of one?
No, thank you.
I probably had better not. Let me just sip the water that's in there because I'm going out to the lake to a picnic. It looks like it's going to rain. Liza Dixon Smith.
Oh yeah, Liza Dixon's, Liza Dixon bought that place where the Grant Paces lived, I think. I was told she did. Lives out there in the country all by herself.
Oh, that's young Liza.
Yes.
Well, this is her mother that I'm talking
Mrs.
about.
Smith.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
Miss Smith now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she's having a picnic out at the lake tonight and asked us to come at
Oh,
6:30.
nice, yeah.
So
No, this was the daughter that I understood living out there all by herself.
yes, she's a darling girl,
I think she's one of the most attractive people I ever met.
but just a little nuts. I think she's in I think she's in that generation, that hippie generation, where they decide that they have to go back to nature,
Well, I don't know what
Back
it
to
is.
basics.
back to basics. And as Charlene was telling me, in Saluda they had basics too long. They don't want to go back to basics, and I think it's great. All these new ones coming in, the new people coming in and going, the young ones going out and living in the country and not having any plumbing and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
She's the poor little rich girl that wanted a cow, and I said she never had froze herself to death in the wintertime trying to milk a cow.
That's right.
Oh,
Great, as long as it doesn't inconvenience you too much.
That's right, and as long as you know you can go and stay with your mother if it gets too cold.
have you ever
Anything
heard
that's new
about
is a
Dr.
novelty, so
Smith's
that's new to her.
baby hospital when that was a...
Yes, that's in the, as a matter of fact, Lassane Jr.
Yeah.
gave us a booklet which we used with the history of the baby house.
Yeah.
And Dorothy to call?
Like so. Miss Sadie told me she found it.
What was
There
it
was
called?
a family living... Oh, did you ever hear anything about the Tyner or the Tanner family? There was two families, a Tyner and a Tanner. And the Tanner boys, Hugh and Malcolm Tanner, their mother had a large boarding house
Where was the boarding house?
on Greenville Street.
The one they just tore down.
Before you get
Oh.
to that little, pretty little brick house that's been built up there.
Uh-huh.
And I used to play with my brother and I used to play with the boys, and we used to play like we had a farm, and the pine cones were the pigs.
Oh,
Anyhow, these boys lived here a long time, and if you ask somebody that knows something about them, I don't know if they ever married or not, but they both died. And their mother was married for the second time to a man named Mr. Tyner.
oh, first Tanner and then Tanner.
Tanner and then Tyner.
Huh.
And Mr. Tyner was a shoemaker, and he had a shoe shop just about where the little Pace's house is now, Eunice's mother.
Oh, yes, well, Eunice lives there with her mother,
Yeah.
too.
But there used to be this little shoe shop there.
Oh, we didn't
And-
know that, did we? Or
And
did
it
you? No.
used to be so much fun. He was very fond of children, and the place was full of children all the time, and he'd tell you the most remarkable stories. And, oh, everybody loved Mr. Tyner.
That sounds great. Boo was telling me about somebody who lived back of where Eunice lives now, that used to have, in the winter, pull taffy.
Have what?
Have taffy pulls
Uh-huh.
and have the children come in and eat the taffy. I'm going to have to remember
Did she teach school here or live here the year round?
Now, I don't know about that. This was Boo Pace I'm talking about,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
but said that whoever it was lived back of them
Yeah.
somewhere and used to, I guess it must have been in the winter, so she must have
Yeah.
lived there year round,
Yeah.
whoever it was. I'll ask Boo about it
Yeah.
when I talk to her.
Yeah.
Well, I am getting more. I love this idea of the farm and using the pine cones
Yeah,
as
that was
pigs,
fun.
because this is the
Yeah.
kind of thing you don't have to have everything made of plastic
That's right.
and costing $1 million and that breaks the first time you look at it, because you can always go get more pine cones. And
I suppose somebody's told you about that black woman that started the church down behind there.
yes, we have her. We have a chapter about her
Yeah, that's good.
in the.
And he had a man working for him, one of the most tremendous men I ever saw. Black man named William Moore. And he took care of his horses, and the doctor would go out at night, and he drove his buggy around in the daytime, but when he was called out at night, he would get on horseback and ride all over the place.
I can't imagine now riding in the dark the way people had to.
I can't either, but he did it.
I know they did, and it must have taken an awful lot of intestinal fortitude to do that.
And I
There
think
was
your eyes get trained.
A family,
Horses are trained too.
family lived up here. I think they were from somewhere else, South Carolina. I don't know. Weren't people that lived here the year round. One was named, little girl I used to play with, one was named Darcy Duncan.
Hmm.
And I've forgotten the other one's name. But anyhow, Darcy, I believe, was snake bitten, and the doctor had to go to her in a hurry, and he saved her life.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
What did they do? Did they have venom? Did he have venom to anti-venom to save her life? Or how would he, do you remember?
I haven't the slightest idea how he did it.
Well, I have gotten all sorts of I've gotten all sorts of great little goodies from you. That's just the kind of thing I want. That's wonderful.
Holy. Well, believe me, I've gotten a whole lot of goodies out of Saluda.
Oh, Saluda loves you, and I know you love
Oh, my
Saluda.
goodness.
She just hibernates when we go to Florida.
I think everybody, well, I won't say everybody lives to a ripe old age in Saluda, but so many more people do. And I think it's not only the climate, it's just the love that's in Saluda,
Right.
because there is a great
Honestly,
deal of
people are
love.
kind. They certainly are.
And they don't mind everybody else's business. They may want to know about it, but they don't try to do anything about it.
No, I think that people help each other very
That's true.
nicely. But I do think, like in all small places, gossip definitely has its place.
Oh, it
Isn't that
does.
so, honey?
Well,
A lot
never
of
met anybody except the first-rate people in Saluda.
A lot of it's not gossip, it's concern.
That's right.
I told my girls, I said, they may talk about what's going on, but if somebody needs help, your neighbor's right there,
Yeah,
willing to help.
that's right.
That's the difference in a small town and a city.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How many girls have you? 5? Well.
And 2 boys.
2 boys.
Uh-huh. You're a smart gal.
And I'm going to have to go because my boy's going to do a devotion down at the nursing home tonight, and I want to hear that.
Oh, my.
Well, I think we better both go, because I have to go home and get ready to go to this picnic.
Oh, goodness.
So,
You have to take along something to eat?
no, praise be.
Oh,
that's-
isn't that nice? Not to have to bother with that.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
great.